I will make a presentation on the role of innovative teaching methods and resources in actuarial accreditation. Unfortunately, I do not have slides, and I just have a few thoughts that I want to share with the participants so that we have a discussion and a few things that we can reflect on. But before I begin, let me thank Professor Adeleke and Ishide for what they have gone through. This is a milestone for all of us in Africa, and this is what we wish to do. I'm aware that University of Nairobi has started discussions with IFOA, and for us, I think we'll start at seeing that the undergraduate curriculum is accredited. I may not be the right person to give feedback on where we have reached so far. My colleagues, one of my colleagues is heading the exercise, and I hope we'll be able to, complete this process within the next 1 or 2 years. So I have 15 minutes to share some thoughts, and when we talk about innovative teaching methods, the main thing about this is because of what we went through during the COVID-19 period. Whether this has ended or not, we don't know. But having, gone through what I call good practice in teaching, it's something that will continue, to be applied even post-COVID. In summary, it requires very good communication skills that you can apply, especially in situation where we are talking about a university moving to actively using Zoom and other ways to reach the students. And therefore, that calls for creativity and critical thinking that you then engage the students in a more robust way without seeing them. What is the feedback like? It's too early for us to measure whether some of these innovative teachings do impact, close to 100% of the intended purpose. A number of universities are a bit jittery about some of these methods, but as I say, I think the idea here is to make sure that, we use proper quality assurance procedures and be able to measure the teaching and learning aspects. The other methods that we have used, other than the pure learning process, is the blended learning, where students go through an online process, but also meet with the lecturers physically when necessary. There is also the design thinking, project-based learning, and this is important, especially if you want to introduce the students to research and, of course, research immersion, where the students would show interest on a particular topic and do carry out a project in that. So project-based learning is quite important. We also have personalized learning and many others. And for us, when COVID did strike, one of the things that we then thought about is how then do we transit from physical learning based, blended, or online learning. And so a lot of our procedures had to be changed to adopt the new innovative methods. And let me put it here that one of the countries that we found used some of these very good innovative uh, teaching methods was Belgium. And so our colleagues who had studied in Belgium took us through, this group work that they do right from the time that they get to the university and graduate, and different exam processes that you then have to give them as a group, but also as individuals. And interestingly, these are not the kind of exams that we are used to, but having worked through a group, you then invite each student and you give a question and they kind of explain and teach, and you grade them based on that. That is in summary, but it goes beyond that process. So a lot of these things are to happen, and we do continue with some of these processes. I want to share with you what the University of Nairobi has gone through with respect to actuarial accreditation, quite similar to what UNILAG has done, and then outline some of the challenges that actually do exist. Around 2009, we started the process of accreditation with the Actuarial Society of South Africa. And in 2011, we got the level 1 accreditation. Interestingly, we still are in a discussion to move to level 2 and level 3, and this discussion is ongoing. Now, when you look at that accreditation process, vis-a-vis what we do as a country, where we have to be accredited by the Commission for University Education, our regulator. There is also the new accreditation process, a regional one in East Africa. But the regional one is dependent on having received the national accreditation. The accreditation process at the national level involves professors who are in that field and practitioners, in this case, qualified actuaries who can contribute to the development of the curriculum. Universities have a long history and tradition, and therefore, the whole idea of involving professors and practitioners in the accreditation process, in my view, is a big plus. It would be good. I don't know what the other IFOA, SOA, and the rest do, but I think it is important for them to take into account the unique tradition that does exist within the university. But what then happens after the accreditation is being granted? We expect that students who have gone through a program that is accredited will eventually get exemption. How well is this organized? For this to happen, there is a lot of data that has to be shared with the accrediting body, a lot of students' data. How would that work vis-a-vis the data protection law that is in practice in Kenya? So this is one challenge that I want us to really think about, because the data therefore has to go through the anonymization or the identifying the individual to be able to be in line with that particular law. So I believe this is something that we can work on and and get it, done. What then do we need also as lecturers to be able to perform such that we will be found to be uh, qualified and credible enough to run programs that can be accredited? One of them is what my friend from Unilag has talked about. Collaboration is key. And I remember a few years ago when we used to collaborate with Unilab. I personally visited Unilab and we got Professor Ayorinde, coming to visit us for well over 1 year and offering lectures. This is important so that we are not seen just to compete, but we are seen to collaborate and assist in the growth of our process. The other one, and of course, this is, you can tie it together with having some exchange programs that will then exist between and among our universities. The other one is networking activities. And this is something that we can do through seminars, workshops, and conferences. And the other one is mentorship that the Actuarial Academy of East Africa is also concerned with. But let us take this mentorship to a level higher so that we assist the young academics be well-grounded in research and get higher degrees. Because if you are going to run master's programs, then those higher degrees will be required. The other aspect has to do with the development of new technical skills. We know there's a huge amount of data in East Africa, in Africa, that we need to help industry analyze and make proper decisions based on the available big data. And so knowledge in data science, and of course, therefore, having curriculum that uh, teaches or exposes students to R software, Python, and machine learning is key. So this is necessary for both the faculty and, of course, therefore, extending that knowledge to the students. With respect to the resources that are available and are necessary, a lot of these resources are quite expensive. But those books that are to be used both at undergraduate level and postgraduate level need to be bought by the universities. However expensive they are, these are quite a resource that we need to have. Previously, we had donations from IFOA and also from the European Commission. We have quite a number of them, but I think there are other recent publications that we would need to purchase. And the acted notes are also very important that we need to have them for learning and teaching purposes. I really want to stop there, but to congratulate once again the team from Unilab that milestone. And I personally look forward to collaborating with them. And I think the Actuarial Society of Kenya have also learned from what NAS has done to enable Unilab to go through this accreditation process, which I believe would succeed both for the postgraduate programs and undergraduate programs. Thank you very much.
You've mentioned the QAS for between teaching and learning, right? Is it possible to share more on that?
Okay. So for each university, the quality assurance gives us the teaching methods that are to be used. And before COVID, a lot of these innovative teaching procedures were not included. So the first thing that we then had to do is to change the quality assurance procedures to include these innovative methods. And then it goes on how you measure the impact of teaching and learning, irrespective of which one you use, whether it is the blended system or the online system, project-based learning, personalized learning. How then do you measure the understanding of a subject by the students through this? So this is carried out in the QAS. But then beyond that, you then have to interact with the students to give feedback on learning and teaching. And then be able to show that learning actually did take place and that the students are satisfied and the learning was based on what is given in the curriculum. So a lot of changes are being done, but then you then have to measure the impact and be able to show that these activities were for the benefit of the students. So that is what QAS procedures carry. Thank you.
Yeah, that is well understood. And what are these challenges that educators can face when implementing these innovative methods in actuarial education?
Can you repeat the question?
What are the challenges that the educators or lecturers can face when implementing innovative methods in actuarial education?
I think the main challenge are one is the infrastructure. Most of the innovative methods are based on use of computers, use of Wi-Fi, because most of them assume that the students are not in the same site as, say, the lecturer. And so then it depends on how well electricity, the availability of electricity, availability of Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi connectivity. So it is just the infrastructure. But then there are others that expect the trainer or the lecturer to record the lectures. They are synchronous way of teaching. So again, the challenge would be how sure are you that the students are, follow these things? especially, in actuarial science, which has a lot of mathematical models. If then they don't understand, how then do they ask you when it is done as it's done as it? So those are some of the challenges, and there are people who think that if the infrastructure is developed well, then it's as good as physical, learning process.
Thank you, Professor Weke. In case you have further questions, you can always raise your hands or you can share with us through the chat. Professor Weke, I'll ask you the last question, which is, you mentioned about the unique traditions that exist in local universities. Are you talking about political aspects? Are you talking about issues, let's say, with the commission, the rigidity, and stuff like that?
No, I talked about unique traditions that exist in universities, not local universities as such. And this is something that I will not talk about in depth, but I'll give an example. Think about institutions all over the world that are over 1,000 years old. There are only three: the church, the kingdoms, and the university. And so there's a rich history and tradition that have existed over 1,000 years. In Europe, therefore, they talk about the Bologna system of education. And any organization that deals with education in Europe must obey the Bologna system of education. It's a broad area to talk about, but any institution that has existed for that long has a tradition, a very rich tradition that we need to understand. And that's why I was saying, for the accreditation process, it must involve, preferably, people that belong to that tradition and practitioners who use products of that tradition. I don't know whether you get the picture. And the local accreditation process takes that into account. The regional, the East African accreditation process takes that into account. And where expertise is not available locally, whether it is in engineering, in forensic science, whatever, they get from anywhere in the world. So we must not be, it's not one entity. It must be broad in terms of thinking about it. Yes, thank you very much.